Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Wednesday Wisdom Devotional. It's episode number 16, and I hope that you are doing well this morning. I heard a quote a few weeks ago that goes like this, that a house is made with bricks and beams, but a home is built with hopes and dreams. And when I heard it driving down the road, I thought to myself of other things that turn a house into a home. What came to mind is probably some of the things that would come to your mind: love, unconditional love, trust, forgiveness, communication, things that we value and have heard, whether from our family or friends or school or any other counseling sessions we may have been a part of, that are key components of turning a house into a home. And I would agree, those things are very, very important. Without them, the home suffers. So we would certainly be wise to make sure that we include them in our home and in our marriage and with our children. You know, the Bible would affirm all of those things. And the Bible would tell us that love is important, and trust and communication, forgiveness, hopes and dreams, that all of those things matter. But the Bible would also tell us that they are of secondary importance. That the most important component for turning a house into a home would be God Himself. Psalm 127:1 says that unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. And two things came to my mind that I wanted to share with you very briefly this morning about that one verse. One is this, that the psalmist tells us that God is the architect. And I'm sure there are others that work under the architect. They are the ones who carry out his plans and his dreams and follow his blueprints to the T concerning that house or that building or whatever it is that they may be constructing. But ultimately it comes back to the architect. It comes back to what he dreams of and what he desires for that building and how it can be made into a reality. God has plans for your home. God has plans for your marriage. God has plans for your children. One of the things that we as individuals have to do and as families need to do is to ensure that God is actually allowed to build it. If you're like me, you probably struggle with control issues. You want to be in control all the time. The psalmist says that if God is going to build a home, then we need to allow Him to do that. We need to turn over those reins of control and let Him have His way. That means He needs to not just take an active role, but He needs to take a leadership role within our homes. And the second reason for allowing God to build our home is this: anything built by God is ultimately going to be able to stand the test of time. You think about anything that we build, anything that we spend our money on, we certainly want to get our investment in return. We want it to be able to last, whether it is a home, whether it is a car, our degree when we go to college, our career, whatever it is, we want those investments, the time and the money, the energy that we have spent, we want to be able to get that in return. And one of the biggest returns that we can get for any of those things is, of course, something that stands the test of time. Anything built by man will not be able to stand the test of time. And it's just by virtue of the fact that we are temporary creatures. Because we're temporary, anything that we physically build is going to be temporary in of itself. And anything that God is allowed to build, anything in which God is allowed to take an active role, anything in which God is allowed to have a leadership role, and ultimately is going to be responsible for building, will stand the test of time. It'll be able to endure all the pressures that it faces on the inside, and it will be able to endure all the pressures that it faces on the outside. So I just want to encourage you that as many of you are maybe thinking about marriage, have just gotten married, or have been married for several years, just want to remind you of what the psalmist said, that unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. that as you bring in the components of hopes and dreams and love and trust and communication, forgiveness, make sure you bring God at the tip of that spear. Make sure you allow God to not just take an active role, but a leadership role, and follow His blueprint for your family. Be prayerful together, study Scripture together, go to worship together on a weekly basis, serve together, and do all kinds of other things that you can to build, to make your house into your home, to allow God to be the architect. And when you are tempted to take back those reins from Him, when you are tempted to bring it under your control instead of His, just remind yourself very gently but firmly that anything that I build will be temporary in nature. But anything that God is allowed to build will be eternal. Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope that you are able to be encouraged and receive something from this Wednesday Wisdom Devotional. If you don't mind, please share with your friends and your family. I hope that you have a great day and a blessed day. Bye-bye.